Jake Turner had lived through enough storms to know when another one was coming. And that night, the clouds in his life hung lower than ever. The small-town diner buzzed with its usual mix of tired travelers, late workers, and lonely wanderers, but none of them mattered as much as the empty table in the corner where a billionaire had just sat. Richard Caldwell, the notorious businessman, whose face was on magazines and whose money touched every company in the state. To most, he was untouchable, intimidating, and cold. To Jake, he was just another customer who might leave. A tip big enough to help him pay the overdue rent or maybe buy his daughter, Lily, the shoes she needed for school. Jake wasn't just a waiter. He was a single father fighting silently every day, pretending the world wasn't crushing him even when his heart was bleeding inside. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, and ever since then, it had been Jake against the world, working double shifts while trying to be both father and mother to his little girl. Tonight was supposed to be his chance to catch up on bills. A billionaire in the diner meant hope, something Jake hadn't felt in a long time. He had served Caldwell with everything he had, smiling even when his feet ached, even when his back screamed, even when exhaustion blurred his vision. Caldwell barely spoke, but Jake didn't mind. People like him lived in another world, a world Jake would never see. When Caldwell finally stood up, Jake watched him walk toward the exit, sleek suit perfectly tailored, shoes polished like mirrors. The bell above the door chimed as he left. Jake hurried to the table, his heart pounding, a small whisper hoping for a miracle. But there was no miracle. There wasn't even a decent tip, just a clean, empty plate and a receipt with 2 haunting words printed on it. Tip? 0 or 0. Jake froze. His chest tightened so sharply he had to grip the edge of the table to stay upright. $0. Nothing. Not even $1. Not even a penny. Jake closed his eyes, fighting back disappointment so deep it felt like drowning. He had worked so hard. He had hoped so much. And now he had nothing again. He lifted the plate to clear it, and that's when he stopped. Beneath the plate was a folded note, small, cream-colored, tucked neatly so no one would see unless they lifted it. Jake frowned, fingers trembling as he picked it up. The handwriting was sharp, elegant, a billionaire's handwriting. He unfolded the note slowly, expecting maybe a complaint or some rude message about service. But the moment he read the words, his breath caught in his throat. It wasn't what he expected, not even close. The note said, "I know who you are. Meet me behind the diner at midnight. Come alone." Eitzi! Jake's pulse thundered in his ears. What did that mean? Why would a billionaire want to meet him of all people? And how did Caldwell know who he was? Panic flickered in him. Had he done something wrong? Was he in trouble? Jake read the note again, trying to make sense of it. But the words remained, just as mysterious and unsettling. Midnight. Behind. The diner. Alone. Jake swallowed hard. He had Lily to think about. His whole world depended on him staying safe and alive. But what if this note was important? What if Caldwell wasn't insulting him, but offering something? A chance? A job? A way out of the endless struggle? The thought burned in his chest, like a spark of hope fighting through the darkness. After closing the diner, Jake tucked Lily into bed at his mother's house and made his way back, heart pounding at every step. Midnight approached like a slow drumbeat. He stepped outside behind the diner, the night air cold against his skin, the shadows stretching long across the pavement. Then headlights cut through the darkness. A sleek black car rolled into view. The door opened. Caldwell stepped out. "You came," the billionaire said, his voice calm, almost warm. Jake swallowed hard. "Why did you leave me a 0 tip? And why this note?" Caldwell stepped closer, and for the first time, Jake saw something unusual in his eyes, something human. "Because I needed to see what kind of man you are," Caldwell said. "And now, I know." Jake stood frozen, not knowing whether to be afraid or curious. The billionaire's face was unreadable, lit only by the dim glow of the parking lot light. Caldwell approached with the calm confidence of a man who had lived a life filled with secrets. Jake, on the other hand, felt like his entire world had tilted, leaving him standing at the edge of something he didn't understand. Caldwell folded his hands behind his back and spoke softly. Jake Turner, a single father, a man who works double shifts to take care of his daughter, a man who has never once complained despite the hardships. Jake stiffened. How do you know all that? Caldwell sighed and leaned against the sleek car. Because someone asked me to watch over you. Jake felt his heart jolt. Who? Caldwell's eyes softened in a way Jake never expected. Your wife. Jake staggered back a step. My wife? She's gone, yes, Caldwell said gently. But before she passed, she reached out to me. She worked for one of my companies years ago. She saved the life of one of my board members' daughters. We owed her a debt, one she never let us repay. Jake felt tears prick his eyes. Memories of his wife flooded him. Her laughter, her kindness, the way she always gave more than she had. She told me, Caldwell continued, that if anything ever happened to her, you and Lily might someday need help. She didn't want charity. She wanted someone to watch quietly, to make sure you didn't fall so far you couldn't rise again. Jake's throat tightened. But why the note? Why the zero tip? Caldwell smiled faintly. I wanted to see your character, to see if you were still the man she told me you were, a man who works not for reward but out of love. Jake wiped at his eyes, overwhelmed. So, why now? Why tonight? Caldwell stepped forward, placing a small envelope in Jake's hand. Because you're falling behind on rent, because Lily needs school supplies, because life has beaten you long enough, and your wife asked me to help when that happened. Jake opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a check. No, a miracle. Enough money to pay off all his debts, support Lily's needs, and start a new life. Jake's knees nearly buckled. I can't take this. It's not charity, Caldwell said. It's a promise made to a woman whose kindness once saved lives. And besides, this isn't the only thing I came to offer. Jake blinked in confusion. Caldwell extended his hand. I want you to work for me, not as a waiter, as a manager in one of my companies. I've seen your work ethic, your integrity. I need people like you. Jake felt the world shift around him. For years he had lived paycheck to paycheck, drowning but trying to stay afloat. And now someone was offering him a boat. Why? Jake whispered. Because your wife believed in you, Caldwell said. And now I do too. Tears streamed down Jake's face. He thought of Lily, of all the nights she fell asleep waiting for him, of the birthdays he had worked through, the broken promises he hated himself for. This could change everything. Jake took Caldwell's hand firmly. Thank you, he choked. Caldwell nodded once. One more thing. He reached into his coat and pulled out a second note, 1, written in a familiar handwriting. Jake gasped. His wife's handwriting. The note said, Jake, if you're reading this, it means you kept going even when the world tried to break you. I'm proud of you. Take the help. For Lily. Jake pressed the note to his chest, sobbing silently. Caldwell stepped back respectfully, letting the moment settle. When Jake finally looked up, the billionaire said softly, Your new life begins tomorrow. Jake nodded through tears. I won't waste it. As Caldwell's car drove away, Jake looked up at the night sky, whispering, I hope you see this, love. We're going to be okay. He walked home with a heart full of hope, carrying the note that felt like a message from heaven. And now, to every viewer listening to this story, remember, life can change in one moment, one decision, one message left under a plate. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because your support helps bring more inspiring stories to life.